by Fate, written by Whisper Quill. Previously in Chapter 2. To brighten Becca's mood, Ellen treated her daughter to a delicious, home-cooked breakfast. As they savored the meal, they chatted animatedly and shared their plans for the day. Eventually, Ellen took her leave to go shopping with Serena, leaving Becca feeling content and ready for the day's adventures. At the bustling bar and grill, Becca found herself amid the lunchtime rush. There, she encountered Hayley, who kindly requested to share a table. Becca, feeling generous, agreed, and the two exchanged introductions. "I'm Hayley," said the newcomer with a friendly smile. "Rebecca," Becca replied, returning the smile. "Nice to meet you," Hayley chimed, her enthusiasm infectious. Later, in the comfort of the living room, Mollie presented Becca with an invitation she couldn't refuse. "You have to come to this event," Mollie insisted eagerly. Becca responded with a touch of reluctance. "I don't want to attend any ball." Mom intervened with a firm tone, asserting, "You're going, no excuses." Serena joined in, adding, "We even got you a dress," sealing Becca's fate with a smile. In the opulent surroundings of the ballroom, Kris sought to lift Becca's spirits. "Now that you are here, loosen up a bit," he encouraged. Becca, ever the skeptic, responded with a hint of sarcasm. "Need I remind you I have been forced?" Mollie, amused by their banter, couldn't help but chuckle. "Hey, Mayor's family is here. Let's go and meet them," Kris suggested, eager to introduce Becca to some important guests. In an unexpected turn of events, the room was suddenly plunged into darkness, eliciting a startled reaction from Becca. "Oh no! What happened?" she exclaimed in confusion. Just then, someone gripped her shoulders firmly. "Mine," a voice declared, sending a shiver down Becca's spine. "Let go," she responded, her mind re-elling with disbelief and confusion. "Mine," the voice asserted with unmistakable anger, leaving Becca both shocked and bewildered in the darkness. Struggling against an invisible force, Becca found herself unable to move. "Why can't I move?" she questioned, her confusion deepening. Meanwhile, Damien's thoughts were consumed by adoration for his newfound mate. "My beautiful mate," he thought, his heart swelling with affection. Becca's vibrant red hair cascades around her shoulders, catching the light like a flickering flame. Her ocean blue eyes, deep and mysterious, drew Damien in with an irresistible force. She wears a midnight blue gown tonight, a simple elegance that complements her eyes. The fabric drapes gracefully, hinting at curves beneath. Drawing her closer, Damien's breath mingled with hers, his proximity overwhelming her senses. Caught in a daze, Becca found herself drawn in by Damien's closeness until she shook herself out of it. What is he trying to do? She wondered, her confusion mounting as she attempted to free herself from his grip, which only tightened further. "Let go," Becca demanded. "Why?" Damien questioned, his shock evident as the power suddenly flickered back on, illuminating the room. As Becca looked up, she locked eyes with a pair of steely gray orbs, set in the most handsome face she had ever seen. Shock washed over Damien as realization dawned on him. "No," he thought, his mind reeling with disbelief. His thoughts clouded as he processed this revelation. She doesn't feel anything, he noticed, his initial fury giving way to a dawning realization. With fire in his eyes, Damien stared at Becca, his expression shifting from disbelief to a sudden recognition. My mate is a human. Embarrassment tinged his tone as Damien finally spoke. You, he uttered, his voice betraying his inner turmoil. Becca stood there, speechless, her gaze locked with Damien's intense stare. She felt as though she were under some enchantment, unable to tear her eyes away from his captivating gaze. Slowly, Becca blinked, breaking the spell that seemed to hold her in place. With a surge of anger, she confronted Damien. Are you crazy? She snapped, her voice laced with disbelief and frustration. Who the hell do you think you are? She hissed at him. Reluctantly, Damien released his grip on Becca, allowing her to back away a few steps, her eyes never leaving his form. As she put some distance between them, relief flooded through her, and her breath returned in a rush, a tangible sign that the danger had passed, at least for now. At a loss for words, Damien grappled with the situation unfolding before him. You're human? He stammered, his tone uncertain. Becca's brow furrowed in confusion. What? She responded, caught off guard by his inquiry. Realizing his mistake, Damien cleared his throat awkwardly. Sorry, him. He attempted to recover, though his inner turmoil was evident on his face. Get a grip, Damien scolded himself internally, his embarrassment growing with each passing moment. I thought you were someone else, Damien admitted, his cheeks flushing with embarrassment as he attempted to salvage the situation. Inside his mind, Damien's wolf howled in frustration, urging him to reveal the truth. What are you doing? Tell her the truth. She is our mate, it insisted. Frustration welled up within Damien as he struggled to contain his emotions. Shut up, he snapped internally, his anger flaring at the wolf's persistence. She won't reject us. What are you even doing? She is standing right in front of us, the wolf persisted. Leave me alone, Damien growled mentally, pushing back against the insistent voice of his wolf before it could overpower him. He needed to regain control before things spiraled out of hand. Becca's anger flared. Watch where you're going, and check who you're grabbing before dragging people around. Such a creep, she thought, her irritation clear. Damien stammered. Now move, she demanded. Damien looked shocked. Excuse me. You heard me. Move so I can leave. Becca was about to push past Damien when he stopped her with a hand, causing her to glare at him. Please, wait. Confusion was etched on his face, with a hint of sadness in his tone. Don't touch me, Becca snapped. Sorry, I want to say, apologize. Damien replied, his hurt expression quickly masked. And I won't touch you, he conceded. Damien took a deep breath, looking embarrassed. I am sorry. He doesn't mean that, Becca thought, dismissing his apology. Keep your half-hearted sorry to yourself. I can't believe I let something like that almost happen, Becca thought, shocked at herself. Watch who you're talking to, Damien warned, his voice dropping to a dangerous low as his demeanor suddenly shifted. His previously composed exterior cracked. revealing the simmering anger beneath. "I don't care who you are, mister." Becca shot back, unflinching. "You," Damien began. But Becca commanded with resolute anger, "Just stay away." Damien's jaw tightened as he fought against every fiber of his being, struggling to maintain his composure and act indifferent toward his mate. "I wouldn't want to come close either," Damien retorted, forcing an icy tone into his voice. The words felt like poison, but he delivered them with a cold detachment that masked the inner turmoil threatening to consume him. With a sarcastic edge, she said, "Really? You seemed pretty interested a moment ago." Her eyes flashed with defiance as she hurled the words at him, each challenging his sudden coldness. Arrogant bastard, Becca thought, her anger simmering. Damien's anger flared as he snarled, "Nobody disrespects me." He leveled a cold, icy stare at Becca, his gaze piercing through her like a knife. "I won't get scared of him," Becca resolved internally, her demeanor defiant. What's her problem? Damien wondered with bewilderment. "I am not a nobody," Becca retorted, her voice laced with defiance as she stood her ground. Without another word, Becca turned and walked away. A lingering unease settled within her as she felt Damien's intense gaze boring into the back of her head. This encounter felt more significant than a mere chance meeting, which turned into a face-off, an unexpected clash with a stranger she had never anticipated encountering. Uncharacteristically, she found herself lashing out at someone she didn't even know. Yet, there was something about this man, his piercing eyes, his commanding yet alluring presence, that set her on edge. It was as if he posed a danger to her life, alerting every fiber of her being to potential threats. Becca's steps echoed with pent-up frustration as she paced, her mind swirling with thoughts. He ruined my entire night, she seethed internally, her anger palpable. Mollie's warm smile greeted Becca as she reached the center of the hall. "Finally, you are here," she exclaimed cheerfully, unaware of Becca's inner turmoil. Kris's unexpected inquiry caught Becca off guard, drawing her attention. "Where were you hiding?" he asked, his curiosity piqued. Meanwhile, from the shadows of the room, Damien observed Becca intently, his eyes following her every movement. He struggled to maintain control, the knowledge that she was his mate, adding an extra layer of complexity to his emotions. Mollie's perceptive observation broke through the air. "You look pissed, Becca. Is everything okay?" she inquired with concern. Becca quickly masked her expression with a forced smile. "Yeah, I'm fine," she replied, her tone strained. "Seriously, where were you?" Kris pressed, his tone betraying his concern. "I was at the terrace," Becca responded, her voice tinged with confusion as she recounted recent events. Kris's shocked reaction took her by surprise. "Alone," he exclaimed, disbelief evident in his expression. "Would you relax, please? I was alone, and yes, it's no big deal." Becca clenched her jaw, and Kris attempted to say, "Look, Bex," he began. But before Kris could utter another word, Mollie stepped between them, her expression a mix of annoyance and concern. Stop it, you two, please. We're here to have fun. Becca felt a wave of embarrassment wash over her. I am so worked up because of that idiot. What is wrong with me? She thought, her mind racing. Mollie softened her tone, addressing Becca with a gentle yet firm voice. Becca, he meant to say that you don't know anybody here. What if somebody... I understand, Mollie. Becca interrupted, her voice laced with apology. I'm sorry, you guys. She forced a smile, trying to lighten the mood. I just needed a moment to myself. You know, it's too crowded for my taste here. Weirdo, Kris muttered under his breath, rolling his eyes at Becca. Mollie responded swiftly, slapping him hard on the shoulder, and his face flushed a deep red from the sting and sudden embarrassment. He rubbed his sore shoulder, a pout forming over his lips, glancing at Mollie for support. Becca couldn't help but chuckle at Mollie's antics. Both girls knew Kris was only teasing Becca, and he meant well. Kris knew Becca was like a sister he never had, and hoped she understood his intentions. This playful exchange held a familiarity, a bond forged through similar interactions. The mayor's gala was in full swing, an extravagant affair that left Becca feeling like a fish out of water. She'd never been comfortable in such high society gatherings, preferring the quiet of her studio to the cacophony of clinking glasses and forced smiles. With a smile playing on his lips, Kris extended an invitation. Would you come with us? As he took Becca's hand, a surge of possessiveness overwhelmed Damien. He yearned to claim her right then and there, but before he could act, someone else intercepted him. Becca's tone laced with exhaustion, turned to Kris and pleaded, Please tell me we are going home. Kris responded with a light-hearted chuckle. Silly. We want to introduce you to the mayor and his family. Becca, taken aback, couldn't help but question. What? Why? I don't have to meet them. Mollie interjected firmly. Yes, you do. You are our guest, Becca. Now, would you come with us without any further questions? With a huff of resignation, Becca finally agreed. All right, fine. In the mystical world of werewolves, the possibility of a human being mated to a werewolf is a rare yet fascinating occurrence. This unique pairing stands as a symbol of the mysterious ways of the moon goddess. When a werewolf and a human are destined to be mates, it creates a compelling blend of two vastly different worlds. The werewolf, with their primal instincts and supernatural abilities, finds a partner in a human who brings their unique strengths and perspectives to the relationship. Interestingly, when a werewolf and a human mate, there's a chance that their offspring might inherit the werewolf gene. However, this occurrence is uncommon and filled with potential dangers, especially if the female is human. The accelerated 3-month pregnancy period can pose significant risks to both the mother and the baby, making such unions both remarkable and challenging. Despite these challenges, there are rare but inspiring stories of powerful alphas finding their mates in humans. These tales often delve into the complexities and victories of such relationships, offering a captivating glimpse into the dynamics of a werewolf-human mate bond. These stories highlight the resilience and strength required to overcome the obstacles inherent in their relationship, ultimately showcasing the deep connection between the two beings. In conclusion, the union of a human and a werewolf as mates adds an intriguing layer to the rich fabric of werewolf mythology. This bond seamlessly blends the ordinary with the extraordinary, transcending the boundaries of the natural and the supernatural, and weaving a story that captivates and enchants all who hear it. Even though Becca had said yes to Kris and Mollie, she felt out of place. Meeting new people was not her strong suit. They led her through a grand lobby into a large room that resembled a meeting hall. A few minutes later, she found herself being introduced to the mayor's family. The family was pleasant, their kindness evident, yet there was an intimidating air about them. As she exchanged polite greetings with everyone, her eyes landed on a face that was all too familiar. A jolt of recognition ran through her, leaving her momentarily stunned. Damien, a brooding stranger she'd met earlier, stood off to the side. His piercing gaze bore into Becca, causing her to quickly avert her eyes, pretending to be engrossed in observing her surroundings. She darted her gaze around the room, taking in random details: the crystal chandeliers, the intricate floral arrangements, and the polished marble floors. Meanwhile, Mollie, seemingly oblivious to the tension radiating from Damien, shifted her attention to him. "Hey, Dee, where did you run off to?" she inquired, trying to draw him into the conversation. "I just stepped out for a bit, but I'm back now," Damien replied politely, engaging Mollie in small talk. His voice was smooth, with an underlying intensity that sent shivers down Becca's spine. Goosebumps prickled Becca's skin, and a strange sensation settled at the nape of her neck. As she turned to glance in another direction, she was startled to find Damien standing right beside her. His dark eyes held a mystery she couldn't unravel, and she wondered what secrets lay hidden behind them. A cocktail of confusion, embarrassment, and fear swirled in Becca's stomach like an ocean in a storm as Kris introduced her to Damien. "Hey, Bex, meet Damien," Kris said, gesturing toward the tall man with a strong jawline. "He's the Elder Scar." Standing in his tailored suit, with his black hair swept back in a rebellious manner, Damien Scar is a man who effortlessly commands attention. His semi-buff build whispers tales of strength and endurance. His broad shoulders and the hint of muscle beneath the fabric, painting a picture of a quiet power. His stormy gray eyes, deep and mysterious, are like an enigma waiting to be unraveled, holding secrets as profound as a brewing storm. His lips, though thin, are remarkably expressive, often curving into a half smile that leaves one pondering about the thoughts dancing in his mind. This is Damien Scar, a man who doesn't just exist in the world, but captivates it, drawing attention without even trying, a compelling force impossible to ignore. Her mind raced with the realization that the enigmatic man before her was none other than the mayor's son, the very same man she had snapped at earlier. Becca's expression shifted, mirroring the mortification she felt at having unknowingly crossed paths with the mayor's son. She cleared her throat in an attempt to regain her composure, only to find herself the subject of Damien's eyes. Mollie, who stood beside Kris, chimed in. Well, he's also my childhood friend. Not just the mayor's son now, aren't you, Dee? She winked at Damien. Damien's smile widened as he responded to Mollie. Yes, right. Becca's mind was a whirlwind, her thoughts racing like wild horses. What if he reveals our earlier interaction to everyone? What if he tells them I was rude to him? She fretted internally. Just then, Damien's voice cut through her thoughts, a simple hi. His expressions morphed from calm to intense, then to confusion. A small frown creased his forehead, adding an intriguing layer to his persona. Becca's heart pounded in her chest. The silence. It's too long. Say something, Becca, she chided herself. Why am I panicking? She questioned her actions. Did I almost let him lean into me? I feel so foolish. In the wake of Becca's lack of response, Damien continued, this time with a small, almost imperceptible smile. My name is Damien. He tilted his head before extending his hand for a handshake as he welcomed her. Welcome to our city. Becca managed a hesitant, thank you. She took his hand, feeling the firmness of his grip. She looked up, expecting to meet his cold gray eyes, but they twinkled with amusement. Suddenly, Austin interrupted their now second interaction of the evening with his bright smile and innocent charm, addressing his older brother. Hey brother, Mr. Jake wants to have a word with you. Without taking his eyes off Becca, Damien tilted his head slightly in acknowledgement before releasing her hand. Becca could swear she felt a gentle caress of his thumb over her skin before he turned away. Damien's acute awareness caught Austin's voice as it fell upon his ears. Without shifting his gaze from Becca, he tilted his head slightly in Austin's direction, a silent acknowledgement that he had heard. The scars communicated in unspoken cues, a language of their own. As Damien moved away, Becca's skin still tingled from the brief contact. She could swear she felt the ghost of his thumb, a gentle caress that left her both surprised and curious. Becca released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Mollie, ever the perceptive, voiced her concern. Such a long sigh. What's gotten into you, Bex? Becca glanced over and saw Damien standing not too far away, likely with Mr. Jake. She didn't want to give away her nervousness to Mollie, especially with Damien possibly overhearing. So, she covered up her true feelings and sarcastically replied, Nothing. I was just wondering when I can go home and get some sleep. But deep down, Becca knew that Damien's touch had stirred something beyond mere curiosity. Her words were light, but inside, Becca was still reeling from Damien's touch and the unexpected emotions it brought up. The night at the ball was turning out to be more eventful than she had anticipated. Becca's response caught Mollie off guard, and she chuckled. It's not even been an hour. But Becca remained unconvinced. Mollie insisted, Tell you what, just stay with us for one more hour. I promise you won't regret it. Damien cleared his throat, interrupting the conversation. If people aren't comfortable sticking around, you should let them go, Mollie. His gaze lingered on Becca, and she felt a mix of annoyance and shock. Not him again, she thought. Why does he have to butt in? Kris joined in, his tone sarcastic. Is our host getting offended? Damien's crooked smile appeared. Not at all, he replied. And besides, I'm not the host, Kris. Kris laughed. I know. Your father is. Damien turned fully toward Becca, then glanced at Kris. I just don't think anybody should be forced to be where they don't want to be, he stated. And the night shouldn't be ruined for others either. What did he just say? Becca fumed internally. After shooting Damien a sharp look, she turned to address Mollie's initial question. Don't worry, Mollie. I'll stay with you. Mollie's smile widened, and she gave Becca a quick hug, whispering her thanks. But before Becca could utter more, Austin captured Kris and Mollie's attention, showing them a video on his phone. Becca's anger simmered. She leaned toward Damien, her voice low and pointed. Unlike you, I wouldn't go off ruining other people's night, Mr. Damien. What exactly is your problem, Mr. Damien? Her voice was sharp, a blade concealed in velvet. Are you trying to get even with me because of what happened earlier? Damien's fingers flexed at his sides, as if resisting the urge to reach for her. You don't want to know what my problem is, Miss Becca, he murmured, his voice a low growl. But rest assured, it has nothing to do with revenge. With a side eye, he turned away, leaving you to digest his words. The tension in the room thickened, and Becca wondered how long she could keep her emotions in check around him. As the ballroom lights dimmed to a soft glow, the dance floor came alive with the graceful movements of couples swaying to the music. The elders had retreated to the quieter parts of the castle, leaving the young adults to revel in the night's festivities. Attendance at the ball carried an unspoken rule. Participation was not a choice, but an expectation. Yet, Becca found herself on the fringes, her resolve not to dance holding strong against the pull of the celebration. Kris and Mollie, not the ones to miss any opportunity, had already joined the whirl of dancers, their laughter mingling with the music. Austin and Chloe, caught in a moment of indecision, contemplated joining the dance. But hunger was a more pressing matter, and both Becca and Chloe felt its pangs keenly. Just then, as if summoned by their silent wishes, Austin appeared, a knight bearing food. The plates he carried was a feast for the eyes, an array of delicious food, artfully arranged and promising to quell the hunger that had kept them from the dance. Becca wasn't sure about joining the dance at first, but seeing the delicious food, she suddenly felt more interested in eating than dancing. Austin watched with amusement as Becca and Chloe eagerly attacked their plates of food. He couldn't resist making an observation. You two now have something in common, he said with a smile. The girls paused and gave him a questioning look, prompting him to finish his thought. Your love for food, he declared. At this, both Becca and Chloe burst into laughter, sharing a moment of togetherness over their mutual love for the delicious food. It was a light-hearted break in the evening's elegance, a reminder of the simple joys that good food and friendship can bring. Hayley spotted Becca standing by the table, placing a drink down, and made her way over. Hey, stranger. I guess my persuasion worked, after all. She greeted with a playful tone. At the sound of a familiar voice, Becca turned and found herself face to face with Hayley, a girl she had met previously. Hey, I was hoping to see you here, Becca responded, a hint of surprise in her voice. And nope, I was dragged here, actually, she further admitted honestly. What? I cannot imagine that, Hayley exclaimed, her eyebrows raised in disbelief. Becca exhaled sharply, the annoyance clear in her posture. "Everyone I know seems to think I need to lighten up, have some fun," she said, her voice dripping with a blend of surrender and dry humor. "They're convinced that going to the city's biggest event of the year is the magical cure for that." Hayley cheerfully replied, "And they are right. And they all are right," Hayley replied, affirming the collective wisdom that Becca needed to unwind. "I was tied up with some event details, but I've made time now," Hayley replied, her smile suggesting it was no small feat. Becca couldn't help but respond with a hint of sarcasm. "Wow, so generous of you to spare some time for me." Hayley's laughter was easy and genuine. Hey, you're welcome. Now, shall we?" she beckoned, already moving. "Where to?" Becca's voice was laced with caution. "To the dance floor, of course. Let's find you a partner," Hayley declared, her eyes alight with mischief. The very thought sent waves of dread through Becca, who protested. "I am not coming. No, no." Hayley, puzzled by the refusal, pressed on. "I'm confused. Why hasn't anyone asked a pretty lady like you to dance yet?" Becca, now contemplative, admitted. "To be honest, you're right. I was wondering the same thing." Her words were meant to be sarcastic at the night's unexpected developments. Hayley's eyes twinkled with amusement as she leaned in closer to Becca. "Wow, the thought did cross your mind, huh?" she teased. Becca, momentarily taken aback, responded with an unexpected openness. "It just crossed my mind, actually. Large crowds. They overwhelm me. You see, my world has always been small, just me and two others. It's cozy, but sometimes it means I'm not as well versed in the art of mingling as others might be." Hayley's attention was fully on Becca, her eyes reflecting a keen interest. With a thoughtful nod, she offered a gentle observation. "You surprised me today." Becca's head tilted in confusion, prompting Hayley to elaborate. "I mean, it's good to hear you talk more than just a few words. It's safe to say that you're doing all right." Hayley's words were filled with encouragement as she spoke to Becca. Hayley's words were filled with encouragement as she addressed Becca. "You know, it's really refreshing to hear you open up. There's something about the way you express yourself. It's unique, and it's more than just nice. As for mingling and all that social jazz, trust me, you're going to be more than fine," she said, her confidence in Becca clear and unwavering. At that, Becca lowered her head, shaking it slightly, as she fought back a smile that threatened to break through her usually composed exterior. "Hayley says, as a matter of fact, so you can dance with his friend." Before Becca could respond, Kris joined. "Actually, I am here to take her for dance." He interjected Hayley and Becca's conversation when Hayley asked him, "Who are you?" And Becca responded, "He is my family friend." Kris politely exchanged greetings with Hayley before addressing Becca. "You wouldn't say no to me now, would you?" Mollie's voice broke through the din of the party, brimming with playful insistence. "Come on, lazy ass. You are coming with us dancing," she declared, her tone leaving no room for refusal. Becca tried to resist, but the combined pressure of her friends was too much. After much insistence, she finally relented. allowing herself to be pulled towards the dance floor. The moment she stepped onto the lively expanse of moving bodies, Damien immediately disappeared into the crowd. Kris, ever the gentleman, took Becca's hand with a smile. "As the older brother, I deserve the first dance," he announced, his eyes shining with affection. His warm, brotherly demeanor always took Becca by surprise. In just a few weeks, Kris had started acting like a true sibling, a role Becca found both strange and comforting, since she had always been an only child. As Becca and Kris made their way to the dance floor, several pairs of eyes turned to observe the unexpected turn of events. Among them was Damien, who had not been far, couldn't help but notice the playful interaction between Becca and Kris. His gaze lingered, a mix of curiosity and something more inexplicable. "You ready to dance with me, kiddo?" Kris asked, his voice filled with playful challenge. Becca rolled her eyes, trying to hide her smile. "If you don't stop annoying me, I won't dance with you." Kris laughed, happily surrendering to her mock threat. Their playful banter echoed the bond that had quickly formed between them. As the music swelled around them, Becca couldn't help but laugh along, feeling grateful for this unexpected yet cherished brotherly connection. Mollie, who had been the catalyst for Becca's reluctant participation, watched with a satisfied smile, pleased to see her friend finally joining in the fun. Austin and Chloe, who were nearby, exchanged amused glances, enjoying the light-hearted moment. Even some of the other guests, who had been engrossed in their own conversations and dances, paused to take in the scene. Becca's eyes narrowed as she glared at Kris. "If you didn't have such a sweet girlfriend, I would have killed you already. I am no kid," she exclaimed, her voice laced with frustration. Kris chuckled, seemingly unfazed by her outburst. "Good to hear you threaten me. That means you're opening up to me." He replied with a grin, his tone light and teasing. Unbeknownst to Becca, Damien was within earshot, listening intently to their conversation. Mocking Kris, Becca continued, "I don't like you." As they swayed to the soft rhythm of the music, her sarcasm evident in her voice. Kris laughed heartily. "I don't care. You are like a younger sister I never had. Let me have some fun," he declared, his eyes twinkling with mischief. Damien, overhearing this, furrowed his brow in confusion. "Sister?" he thought to himself, puzzled by Kris's words. Choosing not to dignify Kris's statement with a response, Becca simply retorted, "Just dance." Becca, not being much of a dancer, took a few minutes to find her rhythm. The music continued to change, one song blending into the next, and with each transition, the floor lights dimmed, and the dancers switched partners. The music shifted once more, a cue for partners to switch. The lights dimmed further, casting a romantic glow over the dance floor, as a slow, enchanting melody began to play again. Becca's dance with Austin concluded, and she twirled away, seamlessly moving to her next partner. As she lifted her gaze, her heart skipped a beat. There, standing before her, was none other than Damien Scar. She hadn't seen him slip onto the dance floor, but now, under the soft lights, his presence was undeniable. His eyes sparkled with a blend of something she can't determine, and for a moment, the world around them faded, leaving just the two of them caught in the magic of the music and the unexpected connection. Becca blurted out, "You!" A master of masking his true emotions. Damien responded with a casual smirk. "Yes, me." Confirming it was indeed him, Becca's instincts screamed for her to flee. She spun on her heel, but Damien's reflexes were lightning quick. In a heartbeat, he caught her, pulling her back and wrapping a strong arm around her waist. Her breath hitched as she demanded, "What are you doing?" Damien's voice was calm as he said, "It would be rude not to dance, Miss Becca." A hint of smirk gracing his face. His close proximity and the way he whispered in her ear created an intimate and intense moment that catches her off guard. This combination of mystery, physical closeness, and the newness of the feelings he evoked in Becca made her feel a way she had never felt before, an effect she couldn't shake off. Her heart raced, pounding so hard that she was sure he could hear it. And he could, his sharp senses picking up every frantic beat. The grand ballroom shimmered under the chandeliers, casting a golden glow upon the polished marble floor. The air hummed with anticipation, the orchestra tuning their instruments as if coaxing secrets from the strings. It was the pinnacle of the season, the night when whispered alliances and clandestine affairs swirled like the waltz itself. Damien, the enigmatic heir to the Scar fortune, stood at the center of it all. His tailored suit clung to his broad shoulders, and his eyes, icy blue, like the heart of a glacier. He was a man accustomed to command, but tonight, something weighed upon him. A secret, perhaps, or a regret. And then she appeared, Becca, the outsider. Her gown was midnight blue, a stark contrast to the sea of pastels and silks. Her eyes held a hint of defiance, as if daring anyone to question her presence. She moved with grace, but her steps were hesitant, as though she danced on the edge of a precipice. In this moment, she realized something profound. This man had an effect on her, unlike any she had ever experienced before. As they swayed to the slow, haunting melody, the world seemed to shrink, leaving just the two of them in a spellbinding dance. Damien's voice cut through the music, low and intimate. "It is the last dance," he murmured, his breath warm against her ear. A tradition upheld for generations where no one changes partners and no one leaves the floor. "Why?" she challenged, her voice sharp. "Why should I abide by your family's customs?" Becca stood her ground, her eyes locked on Damien Scar, the man who both infuriated and intrigued her. The ballroom's glamour had faded, replaced by the raw tension between them. His face serious, a dangerous glint in his eyes. "Because," he said, drawing her closer, "you are." He halted, his jaw clenched before adding, "one of Kris's guests, and Kris is like a brother to me. So quietly dance." He commanded, his grip firm. "Before I forget that myself." A sudden shift in his tone left Becca feeling unsettled. His words stung for some reason. Becca's anger simmered, but beneath it, there was something else. An ache, a vulnerability. She should despise him, this Scar with his brooding intensity. But as the waltz swept them across the room, she wondered if perhaps there was more to Damien than met the eye. Technically, she should be furious. But in that stolen moment, hurt mingled with curiosity, and Becca realized that rules could be broken, even in the heart of a Scar. And so they danced, two souls entwined, caught between tradition and rebellion, their footsteps echoing through the ballroom like a promise waiting to be fulfilled. The final notes of the waltz hung in the air, a bittersweet echo of forbidden desire. Becca stepped away from Damien, her pulse still racing from the dance. His touch lingered on her skin, a brand she couldn't elude. "Thank you," she muttered, her voice brittle. She didn't wait for his reply, slipping through the crowd like a shadow. The ballroom blurred around her, the crystal chandeliers, the gilded mirrors, all fading into insignificance compared to the man who had held her so close. Outside, the night was cool, the moon a silver crescent against the indigo sky. Becca's breath came in ragged gasps as she hurried down the steps, away from the poshness and the secrets. She didn't glance back. She couldn't afford to. Kris and Mollie waited by the car, their laughter muffled by the velvet curtains. They were oblivious to the tension that clung to Becca like a second skin. She climbed in, the leather seat cool against her flushed cheeks. The streets of the city blurred past, the neon signs, the asphalt, until they reached the quiet lane where Becca lived. The car halted, and she stepped out, her legs unsteady. Kris and Mollie bid her good night before thanking her for joining them. Alone in the darkness, Becca leaned against the iron gate. The night held its breath, waiting for her to make sense of it all. Damien's voice echoed in her mind. The promise, the threat. She had danced with the devil, and now she was free. Or was she? Tomorrow, she would return to her quiet life, the books, the solitude. But tonight, as the moon bathed her in silver, Becca wondered if she had just stepped into a story far more dangerous than any she had ever read. And as she walked up the path to her own door, she couldn't shake the feeling that the dance was far from over. The grand ballroom had emptied, and Damien ensured each guest's safe departure, but his mind remained tethered to one person. You. In the quiet of his home, Damien confronted his inner turmoil. His wolf, the primal force within him, growled, its voice echoing through his thoughts. "She is my mate," Damien's wolf screamed. The bond was undeniable, a magnetic pull that defied reason. But his wolf was relentless. "She is perfect," it insisted, "even if she's human. Why, you let our mate slip away." "She's a human," Damien countered. The words tasted bitter. "And that's why I didn't tell her." "So..." His wolf's eyes glowed. "You and I both know that is not the only reason why you didn't tell her. You are just afraid." "Shut up," Damien snapped. He couldn't face the vulnerability that came with claiming a mate. His wolf fell silent, sulking like a petulant child. Hours passed. Damien now stood in his, the moon casting shadows across the room. "I have to know about her," he whispered, his confusion a violent storm within. "How can she be human?" Damien mused aloud. "If she's so closely tied to the Williams, surely she knows their secrets. If they consider her family." Sister. Kris had called her, but Kris was an only child. So how was Becca related to him? The question gnawed at Damien's insides, a puzzle with missing pieces. And then there was the matter of her humanity. Werewolves like Damien sensed their soulmates, the electric pull that defied logic. But Becca, she hadn't felt a thing. Where was she all these years? Damien wondered, his confusion a whirlwind. Kris should have known better than to bring her to a party full of werewolves. It's not safe for her to be with werewolves like that. The truth eluded him, hidden in shadows and whispered secrets. But one thing was certain. Becca was more than she seemed. And as the moon hung low, Damien vowed to unravel her mystery, even if it meant confronting the danger that lurked in their shared destiny. 8 years, a lifetime of searching, and now she stood before him, Becca, his mate. But she was human, and when he touched her, she felt nothing. No electric pull, no recognition, just emptiness. How can this be? Damien muttered, his breath a desperate plea. He clenched his fists, torn between longing and frustration. The bond should have ignited, a wildfire of need. But instead, it smoldered, barely there. He sank onto the edge of his bed, the sheets cool against his skin. I might go out of my mind, he confessed to the moon. His wolf growled, its eyes burning with accusation. Damien closed his eyes, the weight of destiny heavy upon him. Becca was more than a puzzle. She was the missing piece of his soul. And as the night deepened, he vowed to unravel her mystery, even if it meant tearing down the walls that kept them apart. Becca lay there, replaying the events of the evening, the grand ball, the chandeliers, the whispered confrontations. But one thing dominated her thoughts, those steel-colored eyes. Damien. The name echoed in her mind like a haunting refrain. Arrogant, brooding, and infuriatingly magnetic. No matter how hard she tried to divert her mind, he clung to her thoughts like a stubborn shadow. Not interested, she muttered, pressing a hand to her forehead. I never wanted to go tonight. But Mother and Mollie had insisted. The annual ball she didn't want to attend. The glittering facade, the masked faces, it all felt suffocating. Impossible, she scoffed. But the memory of Damien's touch, the way his fingers had grazed hers during the dance, lingered. It was more than attraction. It was recognition, as if their souls had brushed against each other, leaving an indelible mark. Becca closed her eyes, surrendering to the mystery. He had me under a spell, she whispered, and now I can't escape. The moonlight danced across her room, illuminating the truth she dared not admit. Damien's scar was more than just a man. He was a riddle waiting to be solved, a spell waiting to be broken. The day after the annual ball, the air hung heavy with secrets. James William had revealed fragments of their family history to Kris, and now Kris and Mollie sat in hushed conversation. You know what Becca asked me last night? Mollie leaned in, her eyes alight with mischief. Kris raised an eyebrow. What? How come our families are so cool with us living together? Mollie said, her tone teasing. Kris smiled, the bond between them unbreakable. Yeah, he agreed. I'm glad she didn't ask about my mark last night. Pointing between her shoulder and neck, he said. Mollie's expression shifted. She'll eventually know the truth, honey. I can't tell you the whole truth right now, honey, Kris confessed. They made me swear. Mollie nodded, understanding. "It's okay," she said softly. "But here's what I can say," Kris continued. "Becca is strong and confident. Our family wants what's best for both her and Aunt Ellen." "I'm glad we took Becca out with us," Mollie said. "She should get comfortable here. This is her home now." "Exactly," Kris agreed, "although I still feel she shouldn't have hidden herself last night." "There were werewolves everywhere," Kris continued. "Anything could have happened." "True," Mollie conceded, "but she didn't know the dangers lurking there, even though nothing bad would have happened on Damien's watch." Kris assured her. "Everyone fears him, but still, Becca is a simple human girl." "At least she had some fun with us," Mollie mused. "If we give her time to adjust, I am sure she will wonderfully settle here among us." Kris rolled his eyes mockingly. "Yeah, right," he said. "She isn't that easygoing either." Mollie defended Becca. "Hey, don't. She's such a lovely person." "Ha ha ha," Kris chuckled. "I'm joking." "Come on," Kris said, standing up. "I'm so hungry." "You always are, my love," Mollie teased. "Let's go, my beautiful mate," Kris said, pulling her close. "Love you," Mollie whispered, and together they stepped out of their room to go have dinner.